Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. You guessed it, today is December the 25th. Christmas greetings to those around the world, whether at camp or in your own home, watching on your phone or in some remote location. You are welcome. This is your daily devotional, the thought for the day. We continue on with a 10-minute message of encouragement and hope. And realize that there is only 7 days left in the year. And again, if you are new to the channel, we do this every day. So click a like, subscribe to it, and share it with a friend. All right, let's start off with some scriptures and let's get going. And we'll have some fun today. 3 John 1:3. For I rejoiced greatly when the brethren came and testified of the truth that is in thee, even as thou walkest in the truth. That's an encouraging thing for each and every one of you today, to walk in the truth. Jesus is Lord, and let him be King on this earth. All right, those of you that are reading the Bible in a year, today you're reading Zephaniah and Revelation chapter 16. Here's your thoughts for the day. A rumor without a leg to stand on, it's going to get around somehow anyway. Here's the motivation for today. True courage is not the absence of fear. Rather, it is taking action in spite of fear. On this day in history, in 4 BC, absolutely nothing happened. On 0, absolutely nothing happened. That's because Jesus was not born on December 25th. I hope I didn't burst anybody's bubble there. I think we all know that it might have been October or it might have been some other day. Nobody knows. It wasn't until the 300s and later on that the Catholic Church decided that this would be a day to celebrate the birth of Jesus. And I know it holds significance for many people that today we say happy birthday, Jesus, and we acknowledge him as the Lord of our lives. Despite all the origins of Christmas, today is a special day, and let's remember that as families gather together. Let's spread the love and the joy to everybody. In 1914 was the legendary Christmas truce that takes place on the battlefields of World War I between the British and the German troops. Instead of fighting, the soldiers exchange gifts and they play football, or as we call it in Canada, soccer. And it all started when that hymn that we talked about yesterday, Silent Night, was being sung by the Germans, Silent Nacht. And on the English side, they were singing Silent Night. And they went, wait a second, that's the same tune. Maybe we're not that far apart. And that's what really should be a significant point. Peace on earth, goodwill to all mankind. 1957, in Britain, Queen Elizabeth II, her Christmas Day message is broadcast on television for the first time. 1971, 140 are killed in a fire in the Korean capital of Seoul. And 1974, Cyclone Tracy virtually destroys Darwin, Australia. For anybody in Darwin, a shout out to you watching today. And in 2004, Cassini Orbiter releases a probe which successfully lands on Saturn's moon Titan later on January the 14th in 2005. Here's your personal story of the day. When faith blooms. A gorse bush is a shrub that was imported from Europe and now grows in several countries around the world. Come here to Vancouver Island and you can see where this is. It all started with the wife saying, darling, could you plant some gorse to remind me of Scotland? And now the hillsides all around bloom bright yellow every June as a reminder of the gorse. Now it's got a dense, dark green shoots, and in springtime it provides a dazzling display of fragrant, vibrant yellow flowers. Although it's best known by hikers and fishermen for the vicious spines and how it just literally takes over an entire ecosystem. Remarkably, the flowers grow right out of the thorns. The whole year round, the thorn has been hardening and sharpening, and spring comes and the thorn does not drop off. It does not soften. There is as uncompromising as ever, but halfway up appear 2 brown fuzzy balls, mere specks at first, that break at last and straight out of the last year's thorn into a blaze of golden glory. So it is with the suffering that accomplishes many of life's difficulties. Just as our situation seems hopeless and hardest to bear, tiny signs of life appear that will soon burst into bloom. Take the toughest issue or the most difficult situation. This year and the last year, for a lot of people, has been a very difficult, challenging times. But this is not different from many ages throughout the world. There are always tough times. And in the midst of that, God, in his power and mercy, can cause his beauty to be seen in you. No chastening seems pleasant at the time, yet it is all over that we can see it has quietly produced the fruit of real goodness in those characters of those who have remained faithful. And again, the fruit of the Spirit, and you can remember those from Galatians 5, look it up, 5:22 and 23. And remember that fruit doesn't grow automatically in season one. It might take some cross-pollination, some fertilization, and a little bit of pruning, or as we see in the case of the gorse, the thorn hardens and then poof, out of that comes a wonderful flower. Here's some devotional thoughts. Revelation 7:9. A great multitude stood before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hand. References today are from Revelation 7, 9 to 12, and Revelation 21, 22 to 27. New Year's Eve, it's a huge night of celebration around the world. But no earthly celebration comes even close to the scene in Revelation 7, which is perhaps the most exalted vision in the New Testament. Those who have suffered persecution and tribulation are given the incomparable honor of joining the elders, the angels, the four living creatures who worship before the throne. Notice the astounding diversity and unity of this multitude. Here we find representatives of all nations, tribes, people, languages joined in praise, no longer separated by prejudice, fear, language barriers. This glorious scene shows God's plan of redemption and how it is accomplished. The promise given in the garden, Genesis 3:15, ultimately pointed to this eternal praise. We also see the fulfillment of the promise of Abraham. Through the descendants of this one individual, truly all of the nations will be blessed. Because of the one seed of Abraham, Galatians 3:16, Jesus Christ's redemption has been accomplished and the rightful heir has taken his throne. And skip ahead to Revelation 21. And as we say, we're getting into the climax and we know how the book's going to end. Our team wins. And it shows us the destination to which God's redemptive story leads. Here we find the new Jerusalem, solely illuminated by the light of God's glory. We see the promise of Isaiah 49:6 that Israel would be the light to the Gentiles, at last fulfilled. What an exciting conclusion of the story that we've been following this month. We hope that this study on the wisdom of God's good news for all the nations has encouraged you as you consider your own place in this great story and its certain victorious conclusion. No matter how dark it seems, no matter how bad and troubles and tribulation, there is light that's going to break through. Wonderful conclusion. Final thought for today is wondering how. Genesis 15, 2 to 4. But Abraham said, Lord God, what will you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? Then Abraham said, Look, you have given me no offspring. Indeed, one born in my house is my heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying, This one shall not be your heir, but one who will come from your own body shall be your heir. Let's learn to distinguish between doubt and unbelief. Doubt is can't believe. Unbelief is won't believe. I'll say that again. Doubt is can't believe. Unbelief is I won't believe. Doubt is honesty and unbelief is rejection. Doubt is looking for the light. Unbelief is being content with darkness. When God promised to bless him in Genesis 15, Abraham responded, okay, God, how are you going to do it? This was not lack of faith because Abraham believed God. He'd already left his family, except for Lot, as we mentioned, and was on his way to the promised land. And he was counted as faithful because he obeyed that promise. So he knew God was going to keep his promise. He simply didn't understand how God would do it. And that may be somehow, some way, the way some of us are sometimes, is that we don't quite see how it's all going to work out. Since blessings were always believed to come through children, and you can read Psalm 127, Abraham had none. Not from the human perspective. Did it look like he would have any? He's an old man. His wife is barren. How is it going to happen? So he said to God, how are you going to do it? God honored that question and told him, one who will come from your own body shall be your heir. Abraham was satisfied. The case was closed. It's not wrong to ask questions about God's way. It's only wrong to question the rightness of God's plan. You see the difference there? There's a subtle but important difference. And it's only natural for people to want to know, God, how are you going to pull this off? In essence, Abraham said, I'm to be the father of a great nation, and yet I have no children. I know you can do it, Lord, but, just give me a few of the recipe ingredients on how you're going to bake this cake. If you're wondering how God will work his way in your life, it's perfectly legitimate to ask, but always ask in faith. Feel free to question how God is going to work out his plan, but never question his ability to work out that plan. The first is inquiring faith. The second is faithless unbelief. Doubt asks how. Unbelief asks why. That brings us to a conclusion today. Here's some facts. I think most people know that dogs can hear sounds that you can't. And the average person laughs 13 times a day. And here's your closing thought for this wonderful, blessed day. Lord, bless my church and give us some new brethren. Now let's kick that off this year with some wonderful things. And I got one little joke given today. Hey, how does Santa Claus pay for parking? He doesn't. It's on the house. Anyway, thanks for coming. God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow.